The roar of the Persian army was silenced, for a moment, at Thermopylae. But the King of Kings, Xerxes I, had his revenge. After his victory in the narrow pass, the Persian tide swept south. Terror preceded them. The Athenians consulted the oracle of Delphi, seeking guidance. The prophecy was grim. All else shall fall, yet a wooden wall shall be unconquered, and shall save you and your children. The city elders debated endlessly. Did wooden wall mean the ancient flimsy barricade around the Acropolis? Or did it mean the ships? One man, Themistocles, stood firm. He was a visionary from Athens, sharp, quick, and relentless. He convinced his people. The oracle spoke of the navy. A massive, heartbreaking effort began, the Exodus of Athens. The entire population, men, women, and children, was evacuated onto triremes and merchant ships. They sailed to the nearby island of Salamis and to the Peloponnese. They left behind their homes, their temples, and their dead. They watched from the sea as Xerxes fulfilled his oath. He burned the city. The temples of the Acropolis became pillars of flame. The greatest city in the Greek world was reduced to smoke and ash. Xerxes had claimed the land, but he knew this victory was meaningless unless he could also claim the sea. He had to destroy the Greek navy. The Athenian sailors, now refugees, joined the remnants of the allied fleet, retreating to the island of Salamis. Standing on the shore of Attica, Xerxes looked across a mile of water at his final defiant enemy, a coalition of over 300 Greek triremes crammed into the narrow strait. For Greece, this was the last card. All the wealth, all the hope, all the free men of the Hellenic world were gathered on these ships. If the fleet was lost, there would be no escape, no resistance, only a final, crushing surrender. In the council tent of the Greeks, fear had turned to fury, and fury to paralysis. The Peloponnesian generals, led by the Spartan Eurybiades, were focused only on their home cities. They desperately wanted to retreat immediately, to abandon Salamis and anchor their ships closer to Corinth, where they could defend the isthmus. If we stay here, they argued, when we lose, our ships are gone forever. If we fight at the isthmus, we can retreat to land. To move would be to lose the strategic advantage. Themistocles knew the Persian army would eventually follow, and a land wall could not be defended without naval supremacy. He rose, his voice shaking with urgency. "The gods themselves have given us this chance," he declared. "Here, in this narrow strait, their 1,000 ships become a liability. If you retreat now, you invite defeat. If you stay, you invite salvation." He was threatened, cursed, and almost removed from command. The Greeks were divided, paralyzed by their own independence and fear. But Themistocles would not allow the most crucial battle in Greek history to be decided by a democratic vote based on panic. He knew their only chance was not to run, but to fight right where they were. The Strait of Salamis was a watery trap, a choke point for ships. The Persians had the numbers, over 1,200 ships, but their giant Phoenician and Egyptian vessels were clumsy and difficult to turn. Like the Persians at Thermopylae, their numbers would be neutralized by the geography. Themistocles' plan was brilliant, bordering on deceit. He had to force the battle, for the fearful generals would never agree to it. Under the cover of night, Themistocles took the boldest gamble of the war. He sent a single trusted slave named Salamis across the water to Xerxes' camp. The slave delivered a message. "Themistocles, friend of the king, advises you that the Greeks are fleeing tonight, hopelessly divided and in panic. If you block the 2 exits of the strait immediately, you can crush them all in the morning." Xerxes took the bait. This was the treachery he understood, the division he expected among the free men. He ordered his fleet to seal the straits. All night long, the great ships of the Achaemenid Empire silently took their positions, closing the escape route. Xerxes even had a golden throne set up on the slopes of Mount Agalios, overlooking the entire bay, eager to witness the final, glorious victory. The Greeks were trapped, and that was exactly what Themistocles wanted. As the sun rose on the 3rd day, The sea was calm. The Persian fleet surged forward, their thousands of oars beating the water, their ships tightly packed as they entered the mouth of the strait. Suddenly, the waters began to betray them. The ships had too little room to maneuver, and the strong currents and sudden gusting winds of the strait began to push them into one another. The Persian line became a congested, disorganized mass. Then, from the gloom of the bay, the Greek fleet emerged. They struck like a single, devastating spear. The battle was not a grand maneuver. It was a desperate, brutal, close-quarters fight. The Greek triremes, smaller and faster, slammed their bronze-plated rams into the broad, exposed flanks of the Persian ships. The Persian captains were confused, their orders turning into chaos. They tried to retreat, but the ships behind them were still pouring into the funnel, creating a massive, panicked pileup. Ship began to crash into ship, turning the strait into a junkyard of shattered wood and drowning men. For a time, the Greeks simply rode through the wreckage, ramming anything that floated, their elite marines leaping onto enemy decks to cut down the sailors. Xerxes, watching from his high throne, could only watch in impotent rage as the vastness of his own fleet became its greatest weakness. The slaughter lasted for hours. The Persian admiral, Aristobulus, Xerxes' own brother, was one of the first major casualties, his death sending the command structure into further disarray. The Greeks fought with the fury of men who knew their families were just steps away on the island behind them. By mid-afternoon, the Persian line had broken. Their remaining ships, their morale annihilated, began a chaotic, desperate scramble to flee back out to the open sea. Over 200 Persian ships were sunk or captured, and countless men were lost to the sea. The Greeks had lost only 40. When the sun set over the Bay of Salamis, the most powerful fleet the world had ever seen was a shattered ruin. Xerxes had conquered Greece by land, but he had lost the sea. The victory of Salamis meant his supply lines were cut, his vast army could not be fed, and his lines of retreat were threatened. Fearful of being completely cut off and watching his kingdom unravel, Xerxes packed a portion of his army and made the humiliating, hastened retreat back to Asia, leaving his general Mardonius to face the final, inevitable defeat a year later at Plataea. Salamis was the hinge of history. It was a victory not just of ships, but of courageous strategy over arrogance of power. It preserved the idea of the free city-state, allowing democracy and philosophy to take root in Athens, and establishing the civilization that would shape the Western world. Themistocles' cunning and the bravery of the Greek sailors proved that even when everything is lost, a brilliant plan and a refusal to yield can change the world.